Greetings, family. We're here once again with the Kemites View on Sunday. Checking the date, the 26th, I believe it is. Yes, 26th.
Yep.
6/26, 2022. I like those numbers. A lot of sixes and eights and the like. It's going to be a very auspicious day. We have once again myself, Baba Ahnk, and Baba Kwabena, and we have Lady Martha Harris here now to give her feminine view and sagacity on the topics of today. And we all say hello. We welcome you here to this humble Sunday afternoon. You guys have anything to say to the audience out in the internet world?
Just grand rising.
And it's so easy to be in this wonderful space.
So easy. One more thing before I get started: like, share, and subscribe. And we have to bring new voices and new interpretations to our people worldwide because too much foolishness, and we have to take responsibility to reclaiming our mental energies. That's what's important. Like, share, and subscribe again. So we get started. Okay. I saw in the news, I just do a brief review, and we got the EU African Summit taking place in Belgium. And some of the topics were food security, money issues, and the like. So I'll just throw that out there, and I want to get you guys' comments first. Lady Martha, you go first.
On food.
Any thoughts, or do you want Kwabena to speak first, and
Yeah,
you can
let's
talk? Go ahead, Kwabena.
No, I was going to ask so that I understood what you said. Did you say EU Summit on Africa?
EU African Summit is taking
EU
place
African.
next week, and it's going to in Belgium. Ain't that something?
Well, isn't that interesting?
Right.
Since Belgium just came back from the Congo and returning Lumumba's tooth after all these years, returning his tooth
in Belgium. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. And did you know when they killed him, they got the Negro stooges, the Negro sock puppets, when they murdered Lumumba, they buried him in a shallow grave. Then they uprooted the shallow grave, moved him someplace else, chopped his body up into pieces like Osir, like they did to what's his name in the brother in Haiti, Dessalines. And then they ultimately, Dessalines, who actually completed the revolution after they kidnapped Toussaint Louverture. Then they took his body, what remained of Lumumba's body, and dissolved it in acid, man. And the gold tooth did not dissolve, I guess, or the guy who saw it and wanted the gold and took it. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's some of the backdrop of this whole thing. But go ahead. You ready, Lady Martha, or you got something else to say, Kwabena?
No, I was just, I hadn't heard about this. You know, I try to stay on top of stuff like that, but I did not hear about. So I don't know anything about what's happening. I know you mentioned some of the topics that were on the agenda, but I just think it's interesting that it's hosted in Belgium.
It is.
Yes. Go ahead, Lady Martha. You got something to add?
Yeah. I mean, when you first said it, I was like, okay, I had to process that it's being held in Belgium. It's like, when in Africa, it's an African thing.
Right.
Why isn't it in Africa?
It's so easy to host Africa stuff in Africa.
So it's like all the Africans now have to leave Africa to go to Belgium. And the summit is not about them.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. Go ahead.
But it's also interesting, the flip-flops here, because we talked last week about Rwanda hosting Britain's summit. Like, what's going on here?
We're going to touch more on that because there's a common thread going on down here. And I did not know that Rwanda became a protectorate. It was originally colonized by the Germans, but it became a protectorate of the Belgians. So Belgium has a hand, deep hand in that region. And of course, I have another story we're gonna touch on, but it's just interesting that they're having this EU summit in Belgium, and food security issues. You know, with the war, they're saying there's no fertilizer. And Africa has plenty of fertile soil. And I think if they did not follow the Western model, they could easily feed themselves. And I think that's part of the problem. Then they also talked about, and the Ghanaian representative said this: there's an issue with money. Now, I have my whole thing about money, because money is an artificial construct tool created by outsiders to control our access to our own wealth. And that's something. Anyway, that's Belgian subject. I just wanted to give you guys a little taste of that, where we're going. Anything else you guys want to add on that? Okay, next topic. Togo and Gabon looking to join the British Commonwealth, which Togo and Gabon, just for historical purposes, were colonized by the French. So these regions were cut out, and then they were called Togo and Gabon, not respecting the tribes or the groups, ethnic groups, and the nations that were there, but they were cut out, and then they're named Togo. These bastards, excuse my language, I don't want to insult bastards because I have high regard for them. Some of my best people are bastards. And Gabon.
So we understand. They're just not in the colony of consciousness. So the unconscious bastards.
Okay, I'll accept that. But Togo and Gabon want to join the Commonwealth. So you're talking about jumping out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah.
The British Commonwealth, right? Let's just be clear. We're talking about England. So instead of being under the French, they're gonna go be under the British,
right?
Perfidious Albion, as they call them, the traitorous Brits.
While the Caribbean is abandoning the Brits, then Gabon and Togo wants to join the Brits. I mean, what's up with that?
Wow, it's crazy.
Anything, Mother, you want to add? Because I'm about ready to go into a rant. Go. Go ahead.
It's like, I was just having a thought, but earlier it's like, because of all this slavery stuff that has been bombarded into the minds of people of color, we don't have the confidence that we can lead. So we keep trying to find people to lead us.
Yeah.
And this is proof right there.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Just following bullshit.
It's terrible, but it's part of the brainwashing with the Christianity. A lot of these people are just so, it's the money and the mind control with the religion thing, and in other countries, in other parts, you're going to have Islam, which is going to serve that role. But I think Islam is not as oppressive in a lot of ways as Christianity, even though I have my pet peeves with Islam too. But this thing, once again, shows the depth of the mind control and the addiction to money and the lack of understanding. Because what is wealth? Wealth is natural resources of the land worked by the labor that creates wealth. So the Africans have the labor, they have the resources, so they have the wealth, but in their minds, they think they need money. And so we need to get off this tip and really understand money to see what it truly is. And central banks and do like what they did in Nazi Germany, what they did in the Civil War in the U.S. Issue your own paper money. What they used to do in the U.S. Don't have a private central bank. That's the biggest problem. Private central banks controlling the toll booth or the tickets access to the wealth of God, the abundance of the earth. But we think we need money. We don't need money. Anyway, that's part of the brainwashing. Anything else before we move on?
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay, so I'm moving on to Mali here, and Masina Katiba, which is a group, a terrorist group in Mali that is massacring people, that was started after 2015 when Gaddafi fell. They wanted to start all these troubles in West Africa where there's a lot of gold. And then you told me earlier you saw something, Baba Kwabena, about Mali being rich in coltan, and we're going to go
Content and
touch on
cobalt.
that again.
Yep. Yep. Just
Coltan
discovered.
is a mixture of Colombian. What is it? Colombian. I used to know this because I'm a materials engineer by trade. So Colombian and tantalum, which are two elements that are very important for heavy elements, very important. They're found together, used in electronics industry. They're the basis of the electronics industry. They serve as heat sinks and other functions to allow for the batteries and everything to be created to have this technological lifestyle that we think is so great. And I think about Malcolm X. He used to say, why do we want to integrate into a burning house? This whole technological facade that we think is so great with computers and whatnot is collapsing and falling apart. And some say that's why we're having all the shots and the other what is it, monkey do, monkey see, these diseases and whatnot.
Yeah. The banana flu.
The banana flu. They had the big boils on you.
Mhm.
Big boils on you from the banana flu. So anyway, anybody got it? That's just oh yeah, and finally what happened is that they killed like Mali. They had massacred like 80 something people in the village over there, because my friend over there called me and told me about how some people got killed, and then Mali went back after them and they killed 132 civilians. Then they went in and found the people allegedly and murdered them. The Malian army went back and found them and got rid of them. So, it's a lot of trouble going over there, a lot of displaced people. Why and who benefits? That's the question we have to ask instead of saying, oh, what a shame. And let's not forget, it was France, US, and NATO who destroyed Libya, which allowed for this whole jihadist thing to kick off in West Africa. That's why. Let's not forget, the US hand is in there, British hand is in there, the French hand is in there.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. And those three are in so much of everything across the continent. So much. And I think I mentioned that they recently discovered more oil in Somalia, off the coast of Somalia. And the US went in because of what's going on with Russia. They're trying to find oil. And so they went in and tried to make a deal with the president of Somalia. And he said no. Well, he suddenly was removed. And the new president said yes. It's just amazing.
It's like cartoons.
Yeah. But of course, you don't hear anything about this in mainstream media, Western media. You only get this information if you're doing grassroots Black media. And so, but it's like it never ends, and it's unnerving, and it's like it keeps raising this issue, which I tell Baba all the time. When there was the mutation for the caucus folks, it affected them mentally. It did something to their DNA, I think, that changed how they operate, and they can't help but be how they are. And I'm still trying to learn and figure out as I maneuver through being a Kemite and what this new spiritualism is all about, trying to balance the love that we're supposed to have, and then these things that have happened and continue to happen. It's just, it seems like I make one step forward and then I get set back a couple of steps as I try to figure and maneuver through that process.
Well, remember in the Osirian metaphor ring, Amen had two sons. One was Osir, and the other was Set. Set is disorder. Osir is order.
Mm.
So in order to have creation, you need both. So these people now, as you call them, the mutation that has occurred because of albinism, we think. In reality, we don't know because we've been lied to so much throughout our history, but it appears to be the case. They're agents of disorder, and not all of them. There's another group that we call the hats, lovingly call the hats, or the small hats, who even are more disruptive, but of course they're chosen by God to run everything, and they're the most disruptive group on the planet. So you have disruption within disruption, but it's part of the whole plan because we always have a time of turmoil before it's set right, and that's where we are now. We're in the time of the most turmoil, and that's when the Savior Heru is arising. And the Savior is not one person. The Savior is all of us. Is waking up as the original man and woman to restore Ma'at on the planet. So that's what they're here for, just to test us. That's all, just to test. Lessons, lessons, trials, and tests. So they are brothers. Let's not forget that. But once again, we can chastise out of love, right?
And we can kill some of them out of love too.
Not some of them, kill out of love. Not some of them, because we're gonna have to kill some of all of them. Because don't forget, don't forget the crash test dummies. All skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Right, that's
so
true.
If you're talking about that, you're gonna have to, have a broad brush. So I don't even want to talk about that too much now, but it is going to be there. And one final thing I want to add: they don't want Russia in West Africa, in Africa in general, because it stops the CIA, MI6, the French, and all them other folks from having free reign at keeping us squished down.
Right.
Russia gives us an option to play against the other. And I think Russia is a better option personally than.
And I agree. Matter of fact, I saw an article yesterday that talked about out of the 55 African countries, only 4 did not vote against. Only 4 were not standing with Russia, and were kind of caving to the pressure from the West. But still, 49 out of the, or 51 out of the 55, that's a good representation of Africa that's saying we're not going to turn our backs on Russia because we have no reason to, and it's not our war.
Exactly. And we're going to go back to that some more, but I just want to say briefly that in all totality, because we look at all the sides, in Africa, Russia has been basically a savior. They've been a brother. They've been helping. You look at different places, they've tried to help. But in Asia, you might add some of the Turks and the other folks who are in Asia, they hate the Russians with a passion. And they're saying because like in Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, those stands over there and other places, Kazakhstan, they were colonized by the Russians. So the Russians did not colonize Africa. They colonized Asia. So the contempt that the Africans have for Western Europeans is not there for the Russians, because Russians didn't colonize Africa. They colonized Asia. So, still Europeans doing what Europeans do. It's just directed at a different place. But we can't hold that against them. But we do have to keep in mind that the tendency and the traits are still there. So
of course, and I'd like to note, though the Russians did not colonize Africa, they were there at the beginning of the Berlin Conference.
And the reason that's what I was wondering.
They were there.
They were in the Berlin Conference. What happened?
They were there. But the reason that they didn't join is because it was complicated for them to, they had to pass through European countries to get to Africa. And they didn't want the hassle of, so it's not like they wouldn't have considered colonizing Africa, but they chose not to. So, but then they went, like you said, to these Baltic states.
They went, and not just Baltics, they went east towards China and took all
Yeah.
that land from Europe to the Pacific. I mean, they all the way to China, to Japan and China, all the way to the Pacific Ocean. They are a huge landmass. They're the biggest country in the world.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Interesting. But anyway,
Yeah.
you deal with your friends that's in front of you right now. You know, as
Oh, yeah.
what is it, the mafia guys say? I like this from the Godfather, because to me that's the operating system that these people use or function on. It's oligarchy, of course, but you know, there's no such thing as permanent friends, just permanent interests.
Mm.
And that's what we have
Yeah.
to start functioning as. Anything from you, Lady Martha?
No, I'm learning here.
That's all right. You got your pretty face there to keep us all and smile to keep us all on track. And I'm running a little slow here. Let me see. Burkina Faso. Let's see. Make sure I don't lose
I'm
my
listening
place
and
here.
learning and tying some stuff together.
No, it's good. It's good. We appreciate that. I'll skip that. But oh yeah, getting back to what I was gonna say something about Burkina Faso. They decided to, which is right next to Mali. It's the same. They had a military overthrow of the democratic government in Mali and in Burkina Faso, which are in Central Western Africa, which play key places in terms of historical significance. And as these places rise, they point the way to the rising once again of an African king, which is what we need. I don't like democracy personally. I think a monarchy is when Africans have been at their best because of, but led by spirit and led by being African, being true and not greedy and all that. I call those European traits, but we got a lot of Africans that follow them. But anyway, so they're forming zones between Niger and Mali, because they're having a lot of massacres there too with these groups, these jihadists who are primarily financed by British, French, and US to murder people and cause disruption and continue this raping of the land. But this military group are saying, no, we're going to shut that off. All people who are up there, we're going to take all the people out. If you're not anybody in that region, we're going to wipe out. If you're, part of our country, which is pretty, I don't know, pretty draconian, I guess the word is, in this region, this region of Burkina Faso, if you don't evacuate and we find you, we're just going to kill you because they're all terrorists, which is pretty crazy, but that's what they said. I just found that to be interesting. Moving on, getting back to Rwanda and DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. The DRC rejected a participation of Rwanda in a regional force. And they're having a Commonwealth Summit in Kigali. We talked about that earlier, which is crazy, but they're starting a war. I guess the point I'm trying to get to between DRC and Rwanda. And here at the middle of this is this guy named Kagame, who on one hand we praise as a saint, then on the other hand, we look and see what his true role is, because the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, are saying that some rebels seized the town next to the Ugandan border, and that this rebel group is supported by Rwanda. And of course, in that region is rich in coltan again and all kinds of wealth. So your thoughts, Baba Kwabena?
Same old story.
Same song.
I mean, nothing changes. Same old story. And I know that we're moving into the age of Aquarius. I know that there's been a shift in the universe. I know that the golden age is upon us. And so so I know the changes are on the horizon. We see them. We see spurts of them popping up here and there. And so I guess just keeping our level set as these changes occur, as things unfold, because there is an unfolding and there is a reckoning that's coming as a result of the unfolding. It just sometimes it's frustrating to see the same old games being played, but they're going to play out. Eventually they'll be played out. So that's the comfort. And it's easy to find that comfort that they're going to play out.
Right. So what do we do as Kemites?
I think it's important for us to remain in gratitude, and to not allow it to throw us off, because then if we're so heavily focused on that kind of stuff, then it's like it affects our vibration, our frequency level. And in order to receive the things that we're going after, we've got to be in that right attitude. We've got to be happy. We've got to be open and receptive, in that receptive mode. And that comes from those emotions of joy and gratitude and happiness and those kinds of things. That other stuff will pull you down. So that kind of throws you off.
Got anything to add, Lady Martha?
Yes. I would think about the soul contracts. And I posted something in the group about soul contracts this morning, and how we have created all of this. And we agreed to all of this, but we have forgotten that this is what we have agreed to. And I had the privilege of listening to an audiobook. I don't know if any of you guys read it or listened to it, by Willie Lynch, on the breaking of a slave. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, I know what it is. I haven't listened to it yet.
So anyway, I listened to it. As I was listening, I wanted to be open, where I didn't create anger in my energy. And I had to really, really, get myself centered after listening to it. But then it took me into something else about when a mother is born, she comes here with all the eggs for however much children will be birthed in the world through her. So which means now that we have all the ancestors coming down the line, because it has to happen like that even for the men. So all the fear that had been created from way back when is still being birthed into our generations today.
Interesting. After I thought about it, you introduced me to that, and I did listen to it. I said I was going to go back and listen again, because it's an easy listen.
Yeah.
But it was
Just
very
painful.
Yeah, it was painful. It was very painful. Yeah.
That's why I can't watch Roots. And Roots make me want to grab a hatchet or AK and become like Mark Essex in New Orleans.
But see, we have to channel that energy. We have to learn how to channel the energy. And that's what I'm working with. I have a lady that I work with, and she is a white lady, and we had a conversation. So I found myself getting really hot, and I said, you know what? Let me go out and buy myself some food and calm down. And then I went back and I said to her, I said, I want to be able to have these conversations with you, because this is helping me so much. And I want to have these conversations with you without judgment and projecting anything off to you, because you deserve to have your story. That is your story, and I can't take your history away from you. So that was very helpful for me. Yeah.
I have a couple of things to add. First off, we have to get past this whiteness and racial thing, because the racial thing is poisonous, not only to blacks, but it's poisonous to people classified as white also, and get back into justice. And because me and Kwabena, we talk about this all the time, how we make decisions based on this racial thing. And I know in my particular history, I have mistreated people who were good to me because of this racial thing. And I'm feeling like I have to be the black or the black, and it's just all part of the game. So
Right.
we have to get beyond that and treat people as human beings, which is what we're getting back to. But of course, that don't make enough money for folks. So it's the money devils who are possessed, they're the demons, possessed by materialism and control of money, who are pushing this whole racial thing. And unfortunately, a lot of people classified as white become willing dupes to participate and feel superior and continue on the exploitation, because they don't get no more money. They still getting kicked in the behind also, maybe a few more crumbs off the table, but they get a chance to feel better than you because they're white. So
So we think, no, that's what we think.
or in
That's
their mind, they think
projection.
that way. No, but
Yeah,
in
I'm
their
saying.
mind, you talk to them, you can hear them
Yeah.
say it. They have jokes that go around say, what you call a black man with a PhD, nigger.
Yeah, but that's okay. But there's only two emotions in the world. And if what you're doing is not coming from a place of love, that means it is created in a place of fear. So superiority comes from a place of fear. Think about that. So when somebody needs to be superior, they fear something in the other person that they need to push you down so I can stand up on you. That's fear.
Well, and that's what Dr. Francis Cress Welsing talked about. And they made a lot of rap songs about it. And it's goes back to what Baba Kwabena was talking about earlier, in that the what we call that, the mutation, the albinos, which let's be clear, all mutations never add genetic material. They remove genetic material to adjust to a particular environmental stimuli. So this whole thing from X-Men, all that about you get a mutation, these superpowers, that's a lie. All mutations have less material, less genetic information, so they're weaker than the unmutated group. So that's why we show that having albino skin is a lack of melanin and is weaker in a sense of dominance than the unmutated genetic information. So to your point, Martha, that's where the fear comes from. Fear of annihilation. But unfortunately for them, they don't understand that they would just be part of the family, because in our families, we express in all colors. You know, we have black as co-brothers and sisters.
All hues.
Yeah, within the same family, and it's not new. It's been going on from the beginning. But these people, you know, they don't want to see that, and I think it's been pushed by, like I said, the money class, the materialists, to continue the separation of divide and rule. But one point to your thing about Willie Lynch, what I've read, that it was, even though it's true in intent, in terms of its existence as an actual document. One guy, I forget his name, he's a professor out in California, but he actually researched it and saw that it was created in 1973 by a Black studies or Black group in North Carolina to try and gin up support for what was going on. So it's not a document that was created in the 1600s. It's not. But in form and in intent, it is correct. So I'm kind of, you know, on the fence with that, because the guy who actually wrote the document came out and said, yeah, I wrote that because I was so pissed off that Black people weren't participating in the, you know, Black power movement in the late 60s. So I put this together to try and get people motivated to come to our groups. So so just so you know about Willie Lynch.
I'm
but
glad.
like I said,
I'm glad to know.
yeah, but I mean, like I said, the intent and I think the mindset is important to know, and I agree with what was said, because even though it may not have been a formal document, this is what they practiced. They practiced that. They did that. It actually happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna move forward here. We're gonna leave out of Africa, and we're gonna have to get the Caribbean next week. My brothers down there, I don't have anything from them. It's gonna be a little bit better and touching around the Blacks around the world, what's going on. But I'm going to South America, and we're going to Colombia, and we had the election, and Gustavo Petro won the presidency of Colombia. And what's more important, His vice president is Francia Marquez, the first woman Black president in Colombia's history, which is interesting. And he defeated Rodolfo Hernandez, who had as a vice president a woman, Madeline Castillo. And I just want to touch on that a little bit because I'm looking at what played out in the U.S. with the Hope and Change guy, the Mandela folk, the Mandela for the U.S., the sellout Obama, which I can't stand. I'm sorry. People always tell me, leave Obama alone. He's not the president anymore. But I guess I'm on Obama like these folks are on Trump.
Oh, but he still has his hands in the clay. Trust and believe.
So he's playing the role as the puppet master with his hand up the hiney of Biden.
Mr. Biden.
Yeah, but Biden is
Obama 2.0.
He must have some arthritis in his fingers because Biden be messing up the words, man. He just
he
do all kinds of says all kinds of foolishness. Can't ride a bike. Fell off the bike the other day. But I just wanted to say a little bit. Getting back to Colombia, they had they have a parliamentary type president where they have one round where they have like 10 candidates or whatever, and then they get the top two. Then they have the runoff. And what's interesting is that people I know in Colombia were upset about this guy Petro because he used to be part of the FARC, which is a military movement, and that he had met with Chavez, and he was supposedly a socialist, and it's gonna, socialists gonna destroy the country. That whole simplistic mindset of socialists versus communists. So you can't have nothing in between. You got to be one or the other. It's duality in this age of duality, Piscean age of the fish, the two fish. It's duality dominating and mind control. Democrat, Republican, communist, socialist, or capitalist, socialist, and it's nothing in between. But anyway, so this idea of this guy's going to destroy the country. And because he's got this lady, which I find interesting, Marquez as the vice president, even more so. But on the other hand, because of her presence, I think something like almost 2 million, million and a half people more voted. And I see it kind of as the Obama effect because she was from the grassroots, from a Black region dominated, and that it was, a lot of mining and problems. They want to put a dam in. She led a lot of protests. So she's very well known. And young lady, she's 40. So she's very well known, very well respected. So the hopes of the people are with her. But I'm seeing that she was given a Green Nobel by Soros Group. And I'm wondering if is she a stalking horse for Soros and going to play the Jedi mind trick that Obama played and that, what's his name, Mandela played, and even Biden played. They don't never tell you what they may say what they're going to do, but we put into our mind what they are going to bring, and they don't really say it that they're going to do it. So they get in there and we get betrayed by these Negroes or these puppets in blackface. So I'm wondering if she's one. We're going to watch. I hope not. She seems pretty down, but you never know. Just wanted to bring that up. Interesting comparison between Colombia, which is the strongest U.S. ally in Central America or South America, and the U.S. and the game that was played on us as Blacks and so-called whites, because a lot of people who classify themselves as white voted for Obama and, out of genuine hope of a change. But Obama never said he was going to change, and he didn't change. Anyway, any thoughts on that? That's Colombia. Just interesting side note.
I have a thought on that.
Go ahead.
So I think we put so much confidence or so much of our power into politicians, where as to nothing is going to change until the people change their own mindset. So there's nothing that a politician can do until the people start to vibrate up to that place to change. So as long as we're looking to the politician to do it, it's never going to get done. So the cat would come home and then the cow would fly across the moon. And that
I
would
like
be
that.
yeah.
I agree. We have to wake
Is that
up.
is that a Caribbean saying?
Yes.
I like that too.
But you know what? Just as an aside, all those sayings that they have in the Caribbean and in the South and all that, even in South America, that the Africans, the blacks say, you
Yeah,
can find
yeah,
an analogy
you
in
can, yeah,
Africa. So
an
it just
African
came across.
proverb. Yeah, yeah.
Right, which is funny. I find that
Yeah.
interesting. Say it one more time, Martha, Lady Martha, for the people, the slow folks in the back of the bus like me. Go ahead.
So the cat will come home and the cat will fly across the moon.
Okay. Okay, I don't get that, but I'll figure it. We'll talk about this offline. Okay, now we're gonna move back to the
So
United
the cat is very wise. Cats are really wise. So the cat,
cats.
yeah, C-A-T, cat.
They have a lot of them in ancient Egyptian or Kemetic symbology, the cat. But go ahead with your story. So explain it to me so we will know.
So the cat will come home. So, which means that when the people wisen up, then wisdom will come to them. Cows, people worship cows. And then the moon controls your emotions.
Wow.
So we keep worshiping the thing. So we don't allow ourselves to come to this place of higher consciousness for us to change. Because so we keep looking at the illustration of the cat outside of you, the cow is outside of you, the moon is outside of you. So you have to come within, bring all of that within yourself. Then the cat will come home. Then your cow will fly across the moon.
Wisdom.
Yes.
Now, just an aside to that, I like that metaphor and that story. What did you call it, Baba Kwabena? I want to say nursery rhyme, but it's not a nursery rhyme, but it's a saying.
Yeah. But it actually it's probably more like a proverb. I mean, Africa,
proverb. That's the word I want to use. Go ahead.
But in the Caribbean, they may call them something else, but it's still a proverb.
Yeah, we call it a saying. It's just a saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a proverb. It's good. But the point I wanted to get to is that the wisdom, there's such an Herculean effort to keep us from reality. As you was talking the other day, Baba Kwabena, how you like to go to the nature and walk in the woods, and you feel rejuvenated, energized. Lady Martha, you was talking about going to the beach and getting to the water. That's being out in nature. And you know, the highest law in the Western world is natural law. And from that derives different laws. You have the civilian tradition, which is mostly European. Then you have the common law system, which is coming out of Britain. And those two systems dominate the world, the colonized world. But above that sits natural law. And natural law goes back to the Netaru, which is nature. And getting with nature is our connection to the creator and our path to take in terms of establishing Ma'at on the land again. So, you know, we're feeling that from the spirit, but there's an effort to get us into video games and us, you know, TV, media, mass media to keep us,
Cell phones.
Cell phones is a big one, and I got to fight that one. I'm a problem with that too, and recognize it for what it is, and not be manipulated by it. Use it as a tool. Because sometimes I turn my phone off. I get calls and stuff, and people get mad because I don't answer. But the phone belongs to me. I don't belong to the phone. So if I don't want to answer, if I don't hear the ring or whatever, so be it. And like in the morning, I try to get out and go at least an hour or so. Leave the phone at home. Just get out in nature. Just enjoy, breathe the air, look at the sky, look at the birds, touch the trees, be on the grass. Get back to nature, because that's our salvation. That's what we have to get into. But I'm looking at little children. Like I was up, you know, visiting family here last week, and I have a great niece and great nephew, and they were on playing some video game for hours. And I'm just thinking, we didn't have that same onslaught against us, but that's mind control. And these people get mind control and you're seeing a rash of young Black males committing suicide and murder. And I'm wondering what role does that play and how we need to divest ourselves from all this mass media, because we got to get back to the natural world, natural law, so that we can have Ma'at established on the land again. And I think I just have to say it. I don't know the solution right now. But anyway, comments?
Yeah, it was unheard of at one point that Blacks, period, committing suicide. That was just not common in the culture, but there has been an increase, a rise in it. So it'd be interesting to get some data points about what the possible causes and effects may be, and if it is actually linked to a lot of the technology that we depend so heavily on.
Well, I have a lot of anecdotal information around me. I don't have any actual statistics in terms of correlation or connections between that, but I do know there's a ubiquitous presence of mass media or video games. They're all the same to me. They're all mind control electronic devices. TV, video games, videos, like you said, Lady Martha, the cell phones. It's all this electronic mind control. And I know I've studied and saw where people who watch a lot of TV and video games, the brain circuitry becomes rewired in a different way. That's why a lot of children nowadays have difficulty reading, because it requires sequential analysis of information. Whereas with video games, TV and whatnot, it's quick response. So the synapses of the brain rewire in the sense of responding to that type of stimuli. So now when you go into a book that you have to think in a different way, it's hard because the brain wiring doesn't want to do that. It's not set for that. It's set for this fast video game, and not this sequential, analytical effort that reading requires. So that's one thing right there. So people get frustrated and they fail. Anyway, my comment on that. Anything else from you guys? Because we're going to move on. We're getting close, but we got two more topics I want to touch.
I've seen children that I know personally who, just genius, then got hooked into video games, didn't want to go to school because they're bored. I'm like, what the hell? You're bored? So now it creates a problem. Now the parents wants to attack the teachers because the children isn't learning the way they're supposed to. But then at home, you're not making them get off the games so they can study their schoolwork. So when they go to school, they're not up to par with the other children. Now it's the teacher's fault. When you are responsible at home to be sure that your children do their homework, get off the games, and do what they are supposed to do, because they need to learn. The teachers have learned their lessons already. So that's a big problem for children today. Stimulants.
Interesting you say that, because I see it in terms of the Western idea of world domination, and the primary tool used, apart from the along with the arms, but the primary efforts were the mental warfare, and that was religion. And then ultimately, or later on, they used drugs. So video games, opium wars, alcohol, tobacco. Now it seems that they're using the crack of the electronic games. So electronic games, electronic media is a type of crack for the children to get them addicted. So you got them under control through this drug that's electronic now, instead of a physical. It's electronic, but it does the same thing. It changes the brain chemistry, gets you addicted, and then ultimately control. So I kind of see that happening, and people have to be aware of this. And I hate when I see a parent stick a video game in front of a child and walk away.
Baby. And then you see the little babies like this.
They're becoming zombies, and we have to recognize the truth of what it is and stop it. But it is what it is. All right, moving on. in the US still. We're going to talk about abortion, the big topic of abortion that came out this week. So you got anything to say about Kwabena? Because I'm letting Martha think about that for a minute, even though I know she's probably got a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, it was a 50 I want to say 52-year ruling that was reversed. So it's been in the fabric of this country for women to be allowed to have abortions for that's a pretty significant amount of time. Though in my mind, it's another form of control. And as I've said, as we've talked about it, I'm not for abortion, but I am for a person making their own decision, because it's not my right to control anybody. It's not the government's right to control anybody. And each person has to give an account for their own actions, no matter who they are. And so to force people to not to force it upon the nation to not be able to have an abortion because you're the government and you have that, you can do that. When, two, there are more people who are for abortion than there are in the country against abortion, but yet these judges have made this decision, though the majority of people didn't want it. Because
let's be clear here, though. Let's be clear here that the law actually just took away a federal mandate of abortion. Now it's devolved to the states. The states have to make the decision of whether their populace will have abortion rights or not. So the Supreme Court did not ban abortion. They just devolved the decision down to the states.
Put it at the state level.
To your point, yes.
Okay, I can see. Yeah. True, very true.
Well, I feel like when anything happens in society or in a nation where people feel like they're being forced to do something or not do it, they're gonna do the opposite. Because the human was not created to be dominant. For them to feel like, okay, you have to be forced to make a decision by your government not to have an abortion. So if the government says no, then they're going to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do it no matter what. They're going to find a way to do it. So if a woman wants to have an abortion, she'll go in her basement and somebody will come and give her an abortion. So my thing is, why not educate people instead of trying to force them to uphold a man-made law? Why not teach instead of preach?
Yeah, and they've got a lot of arguments. They're saying that, what's next? They're going to follow women's ovulation cycles. Are there going to be contraceptive constraints and the like? And then what about a woman who is raped or incest? Should she be forced to carry that baby? But lost in all this conversation, and this is just out for discussion.
Right.
I think to ban abortion, to me, is like saying we're going to ban murder. And I agree. I think we should ban murder. I think we should ban abortion. I think we should ban all that. But the state murders. They have this thing called the death penalty. Police and other army murder people. They're murdering folks in Ukraine and Africa and other places. They're having war, Iraq, wherever. So to say that these people can murder, but the other people can't murder, it's just going to create this harmony and revolution. And I think is what people are trying to do in this country. And the folks who run the show, who have looted the country, the hats, who have destroyed this country and continue to destroy it, want to see this country break up. As Maxine Waters, another crash test dummy, and AOC, the black and brown crash test dummies, running out there saying we should, protest and, defy the court. Well, you're talking about insurrection because the Supreme Court is the third wheel of the government of the law of the land. So how are you now saying Trump is so bad for January 6th because he wanted to start this insurrection, but now you're saying defy the third leg of the Constitution, the country, the government, the law that you swore to uphold? You're supposed to defy it. How is that consistent? That shows hypocrisy and confusion. This whole abortion thing to me is just a red herring to collapse the country. They can't stop crack coming in the neighborhood. I can go right now around the corner and give me some crack if I wanted to. Weed, whatever. That's illegal.
But they're bringing it in.
Stop abortion.
They're not going to stop it because they're bringing it in.
The point I'm trying to make is just because they make it illegal, if they make it illegal, because they're not going to make it illegal in California. It's not going to be illegal in, Illinois, New York, New Jersey. They're going to have abortion. Yeah, legally and open. People can go there. And even here, they're going to have mail order abortion pills or whatever. They got the day after stuff already. And you can get just about anything, through the mail. But it's about dominance and control. So I think that's what you were speaking of.
At the end of the day,
Lady Martha. Yeah. And
but see, there's something behind all of that.
But when a baby is conceived, it's not that human life does not start at birth. We learn and know that soul comes into the body at conception or shortly thereafter. So you have a human being. So I'm not saying don't have abortion, but know that you're murdering somebody. Don't delude yourself and think that you're not murdering somebody, because that child is not the mother, and you are murdering this child for whatever reason. You feel justified. Like I said, the state murders people, police murder people murder people, but don't say that it's legal and you're not murdering somebody. That's my whole point. So I know this is a touchy topic, but I wanted to touch on that because, you got on one hand the January 6th stuff going on with, get Trump. Then on the other hand, you got the Mammy Maxine and the other crash test dummy AOC saying defy the Supreme Court. It's just hypocrisy, and I don't like that. Anyway, anything else, guys? Last thing I want to talk on. You want to touch on this abortion thing anymore? Or are you guys done? Because I have one more topic and we'll be finished.
You go on.
Okay, move on. Last thing is Ukraine war. They're talking about Russia needs an off-ramp. And as what I've been seeing is that the Ukrainian forces supported by NATO are getting crushed, which demonstrates that this whole war fiasco is going to be a disaster for the country and the world in general, as we witness gasoline prices move towards $10. Food prices are going to go through the roof. All this is being created by the same nefarious hands who are controlling things and controlling these politicians who are nothing but puppets. So we just have to be ready and recognize that what's going on. And I think this abortion thing is to keep us off track of what's going on. The country is being set up for collapse. And I think it's going to be okay. We're going to go through a rough time, but it's good, like, for us in these groups to recognize it and discuss it and make plans and be ready, because we may have to be in the countryside. We may have to get out of these cities and not be in these death traps that some of them are going to be. But that's just the reality. Go ahead, brother.
I was going to say, that's what Dr. Mombe pushes, getting out of the city, going back to the, when in Africa, they call it back to the villages, and getting off the grid, getting your own solar energy and growing your own food, and, and letting go of all of this that has sucked us in and drained the life out of us.
Like a trip back to the Bahamas for me.
Yeah. And I even struggle with that myself, with the things that I have going on in Africa. And I do have land that's in a more remote area. And I keep thinking maybe I should build something, I'm focusing on building something that's pretty modern and green, but it's not off grid per se, though it'll have its own power. I won't have to depend on their power system or their water system, because I have my own water, but something more off grid than where I'll be and what I currently have. And I could certainly still do that too, but I'm considering having that more more secluded, off-grid, disconnect kind of thing. As I
Amish
continue.
people that have been doing it all their lives, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Amish people have been doing it. They don't depend on the country. So whether there's collapse or whatever, they keep
Right.
going.
True. Very
So
true.
what's wrong with us?
Yeah.
So
And that's why Africa, I think in a lot of places in Africa who are supposedly underdeveloped, will they be the advanced places after the collapse comes? Because collapse is coming. You know, there's no three ways
Yeah.
about it. What
Yeah.
they've done
Collapse
with
is coming.
everything, you know, and this whole technological model that we're running this so-called modern world is on, it's not sustainable. So collapse is coming. The question is when, and how will we get through it, and where do we want to be when things, they're already burning up factories that bring food in. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but a lot of
Yeah.
factories where food is produced in the US is being destroyed.
that's
So
something new.
And
it's just
a part
matter
of that,
time.
yeah, and a part of that collapse too is to bring more of a dependence on them,
Right.
on, as Ralph Smart calls them, the non-organic ones.
Right. And to kill off
was in
folks.
college in 2006.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Martha. What did you say, Martha?
When I was in college in 2006, I was studying culinary. So I had a project that I had to study. So then I found out that, you know, every year, just say potatoes is the time to harvest potatoes. So if there is a surplus to the market, they would pay the farmers off to destroy them so they can keep the prices up. And then they pay them off, and then they just burn the fields or whatever. They take them to the trash compost or whatever. I was like, what? I couldn't believe that. And then you're talking about people now in other countries. You're doing it here intentionally.
That's called capitalism. And that's why capitalism is evil, which is different from commerce. I separate capitalism and commerce, but capitalism is evil, period. And it's no way to justify capitalism, but I do not say there should not be commerce. And I don't say jump immediately to socialism or capitalism. No, that's the game we're stuck in. So what is it? You know, analyzing capitalism for what it truly is and saying that it's evil, criticizing it, they want to say, oh, well, you're a socialist or you're a communist. No, I'm not. I'm neither one of those. I'm an African spiritualist. I think we should have free trade, and I think we should take care of everybody. And we should not have fiat money. We should not have usury. Get rid of usury, get rid of capitalism, because capitalism is the operating system that was used to enslave everybody and colonize the planet. And with that, I'm done. Anything else, guys?
So on that note, there's a YouTuber that I follow in Ghana who has now become the most famous African YouTuber across the entire continent. And so he's and the most successful YouTuber on the continent. But he interviewed a friend of mine in an area of Ghana, and the group of them are diasporans, though my friend is African American, but she married a Ghanaian. But 6 continental Africans who have lived in the West and decided to go back home have started a farm co-op. And they've all bought land together in the same area, and their lands border each other. And each one has a unique thing that they're doing farm-wise, and they're sharing their produce. One is a poultry farmer, one is a pig farmer, one is a corn farmer, and they share. And what they're planning to do is build the community with the farm in the center. And so this video, this interview with the YouTuber's name is Wadamaya, this famous African YouTuber, heard about them and went there and interviewed them to ask about their story. And man, it's a powerful story. But they are learning how to do this, and it just happens to be in an area where one of my employees lives. And he didn't even know about it. I sent him a video. I said, "Well, this is in your area. Did you know about this?" He said, "No." And so anyway, I'm planning to meet with them when I go to Ghana here in the next few weeks, and to see what they're doing, to kind of assess what some of the needs are, because I had planned to do that in that area anyway, just because of this one employee who works for my team already. And he's a cocoa farmer himself. And so, and then see about connecting them, as well as seeing how I could somehow, collaborate with them. And I don't know what that would look like, but it's just a fascinating thing to see that they're wanting to make the farming the center of the community, and then trade amongst each other for what the other one doesn't have, so that they'll have a full farming experience, and which just makes sense. And that's probably how it used to be here before we got so far away from what we are, when our grandparents came out of slavery, and how they kind of operated. And probably how it was with the ancestors anyway, before, back in the day. So it's just interesting to see these changes, to see these young folks because these guys are all younger than me, but to see them in their ingenuity, their creativity, and their willingness to collaborate, which is sometimes difficult to find amongst Black people, because everybody wants to be the guy.
HNIC.
Yeah.
Reverend Chickenfoot, running the show. The king. As it was, so shall it be again. What you say? Got anything less, Mother Martha? Lady Martha?
This is what I would say in closing. We live this synthetic lifestyle of chasing the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to create synthetic things to line up with that lifestyle, and that's why we have all this collapse going on, because everything is just false. There's no truth in anything that is being done. So where there is no truth, you have nothing to stand on.
Yep.
Indeed. With that, I wish everyone love and gratitude. Thank you for your words. And we do this every Sunday. I'll try to get it out today to the world. And we're just hoping to give good words. We're trying to give good words and inspiration. And like, share, and subscribe. And we will be back again next. Oh, yeah, comment also. Give me your comments. I'd like to see what you guys are thinking. And we will continue this next week. And once again, love and gratitude. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, peace. Well,